But that's exactly one way to do it.
It also assumes that in that situation that there's external funding available.
It assumes that, it assumes you trust each other on the science side and the
Yeah.
management, it assumes a whole bunch
But
of.
at the end of the day, the dollars make the wheel go round.
I mean,
Right.
it's one thing for the CRS, because PPD used to do that as well, where they would put in research bucks to do the work. But Brock, looking at it from the academic institution side of things, I mean, you're obviously going to be influenced with someone like GSK or a big pharma comes along and says, hey, we want to work with you on this, because behind that, if this is something that they want to do, they have the resources to take it all the way to the clinic.
Right.
How do you feel about that if you're dealing with a smaller company coming to you and saying, because I got a great project for you. But when you look at that, in this space, that's mostly who you'd be dealing with, right? In the cell therapy side of things.
Right.
Not drug discovery, but just the straight cell therapy. Is there a willingness at institutions like Harvard to work out similar deals, understanding the magnitude of what a smaller company can put on the table, even for sponsored research? Is it going to be as great as a big pharma company? I mean, how do you, when you look downstream?
Yeah, the answer is it all depends.
Yeah.
In terms of, what the area is, what the joint interest, as I was just saying, what funding you already have or
Yeah.
not. How long it'll take, who has what. So it's very much, a one-off
Yeah.
conversation.
That's a very lawyerly
But it's
answer,
true.
but it's always true, yes.
But it's true, right?
But it's also part of the practical reality of looking at this and saying, that it's not a one size fits all relationship that you can have. That it really is dependent on, in many regards, the size of the potential company
And also,
the access they get.
and also particularly given the early stage science coming out of academic labs in general, one of the things that really is key, I think, is a scientific relationship between, whether it's a small company or a large company, between, on areas of mutual interest. And so the scientific sort of, relationship and scientific trust.
Yeah. So I think if you just go to your point earlier, Alona, of maybe this is a solution. I mean, maybe the challenge is how do you take that solution and make it work more predictably for the smaller companies in the cell therapy space, where maybe it is asking the academic partner to take a bigger risk, but it means the company also has to offer a bigger reward at the end that they might not be able to offer up front.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're like us and you're the funding agency, you have to create carrots. You have to, you say, well, you'll get more funding, and we're here to de-risk, and hopefully there's more and more government entities that are going to be in this field helping to de-risk these sorts of things to enable the academics. But we also want to make sure that they are out there willing to partner in areas where maybe they don't have as great a strength. And you mentioned, reimbursements. I mean, somebody's got to start working on that sooner than later too. And that's a core competency that tends to be in the bigger companies. So we need to engage them very actively and sooner than later as well. But actually we're over, but I wanted to make sure that there aren't any questions in the audience before we let our panelists go. Is that where the reception is? Okay, so.
You've marked it out already.
Yes, okay. Do you, maybe we'll just have the final parting words of 1 minute each, maybe your sort of words of wisdom. I'll let you pick any category. Oh, no, you don't like that?
I'll do whatever you want. I always like the deal thing, like voting in Chicago early and often. I think deals at different times, different stages. The challenge for all of us is not wanting to do deals, not being motivated to do deals. It's to get somebody to write us a check. And the question is, how do you get somebody to write you a check? And it's hard and it's complicated. And you got to find a champion. You got to lower the barriers. You got to figure out what fits your needs. But at the end of the day, if collectively stem cells are going to somehow weasel our way into the mainstream of medicine, we've got to figure out how to get people to write checks for this business, because the venture guys are going to stop, the public investors are going to stop if big pharma and big pocketbooks don't come in. So we got to figure out how to get to lower the barriers. That's why I'm talking about options and things like that. You've got to figure out how to lower the barriers.
So, I think that in the field of regenerative medicine and stem cells in particular, I think we like to think of our solutions as being so revolutionary and so cutting edge that they're going to sell themselves. And I think that you need to take a step back and you need to recognize that all of the blocking and tackling, all the fundamentals that every other pharmaceutical company ahead of us has done, we have to do as well. We have to be following, in many regards, the same game plans. There might be aspects to the expertise and the balance of the expertise that's different, but you can't get away from the fact that there is a history of how to do this appropriately, how to attract those partners, what it is at any given time in the corporate culture of big pharma and global biotech that is used to evaluate opportunities, the risk that they're willing to take, but be ready to be able to address those and not just assume that you can say, look at our spectacular cells.
And not to give academics a hard time, but one of the things for those of you on the corporate side, whether large or small companies, as you think about, quote, deals and relationships with academic institutions, think about how you can help them understand the market opportunity of their technology. Because one of the things I think that's true is that most academic tech transfer organizations are under-resourced, and they're all under pressure to create revenue, right? They're all academic, saying, how do I get more revenue sources? So they're trying to, file IP, they're trying to license, and they get sort of caught a little bit on a bit of a treadmill, in all honesty. And they don't have the time and the wherewithal to really step back and saying, what's the best way to sort of create value, typically anyway, around a given technology or set of technologies. What's the real, IP landscape look like? What's the best way to go to market? That sort of stuff. So where you could help, as you're talking about sort of creating win-win situations and how do we create, value mutually, and whether you look at option arrangements or what have you, to the extent that from the corporate side you can say, look, here's the real opportunity, and here's a landscape, and here's how we could actually move that work forward optimally. And I think that would benefit the academic and potentially end up with better deals for everybody, as opposed to people feeling that they're on opposite sides of the table.
Great. Thank you all very much for your insights. I think people are walking away with a couple new ideas, and we'll see you at the reception in 2 minutes.
Thank
In
you.
the bar.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.